I'm Jordan Rhodes. I'm a project coordinator with the Center for Applied Research and Engagement Systems, known as CARES. If you've been on the other webinars, you'll remember that CARES is part of the University of Missouri Extension. I'm going to let these other folks in. There we go. And CARES has built data tools for National CAP as well as for several other state community action associations. And we're very excited now to have the new Illinois data tools up. And so in our first webinar a few weeks back, I provided a brief overview of each tool in your hub. So we have the resource guide, the needs assessment, the map room, and the poverty report. And then in our last webinar, we did a deep dive into that community needs assessment. And today we are going to focus on this map room. So if you have a login for the Data Hub, you are welcome to follow along during the webinar. And of course, if you have any questions at all, feel free to stop me and ask, or just drop them in the chat. And so I'll also be sure to leave some time for Q&A here at the end. So let's go ahead and navigate to our map room. For anybody following along, we're going to go to the CARES tab on our IACAA website. We're going to drop down to Maps, and then here we are. Now you'll notice when you click on the button right away, our map room is going to fill up the entire screen. If you want a partial view of this map room, you can do that in two ways. You can click this eye at the top left corner. If we want to bring it back to full screen, we can click this button right here at the bottom left. And we can also click this button to minimize again. So sorry for jumping back and forth here, but we're going to bring it back to full screen one more time because it's a little easier to navigate that way. So, map room. This is a space where you can find and map thousands of data layers. It contains around 30,000, and they're all pulled from reliable secondary sources. Now, unlike the community needs assessment, which allowed you to quickly assess large amounts of data for a specific area, the map room is a space for digging deeply into one or two or three data sets at a time. And so I say that not because there is a limit to the amount of data that you can add to a map. There is not. I say this because this is more of a recommended use case. So how do we use this thing in the first place? The map room is a space for exploring spatial representations of data for your communities. It's a place where you can find data that you can't find in the community needs assessment. So remember that community needs assessment draws from around 100 data sets. This has 30,000. This is also a place where you can look at data at more granular geography levels. So again, to compare it to that community needs assessment, that we could look at data at the county level. In this map room, depending on the geography available with the original data source, you have the option to look at data by zip code, by school district, by census tract, and so on. In this map room, you're also going to be able to find old data, and you're going to be able to custom make data visualizations. So all that information is great, but it's going to make more sense once we put it into practice. So I'll introduce you to how to find a data layer, and then we will make a map. So to use the map room, we're going to first begin by searching for and selecting the data we want to view on our map. In our panel here, we can explore recently added map layers, as well as our most used layers. And so it's important to note that these are not necessarily going to be your recently added map layers or your most used layers. They are going to be your network's most used layers, if this makes sense. So in addition to clicking on these layers though, you can also search by keyword, browse by topic, or browse by source. So let's say we are interested in finding and mapping data on education, and we decide to browse by topic. We can then select our education category, and then we can browse by subtopics such as education, facilities, finances, policies, and programs. So we're going to go for attainment here. We're going to look at all students. And as you can see, here are all of our relevant data layers related to education attainment for all students. You'll also note that we have older data here. So again, a lot of our data layers that are the most up-to-date, some are going to be as up-to-date as 2023. Some, our most recent versions, are going to be more like 2021. This is because our data is as up-to-date as the data source. And so you'll see, though, that we have these older data in here, and we are going to look at let's say population with no high school diploma. If we wanted to select this layer, and we wanted to know a bit more about it before we did, we can click this I button beside it. Whenever you click this button, a little pop-up is going to appear on the right side of your screen. It's going to tell you when these data were released. It's going to give you some information on the release cycle. And it's going to provide some information on your available geography units, which is really important. So if we select this data, we know that we are going to be able to look at it at the census tract level. We're going to be able to look at it at the congressional and Senate district levels and state house district levels, school district, zip code, and more. We're also always going to link back to the original data source and include a data source description. So we can click this X button to get rid of this. And before we look at a layer, let's look at some other ways to search for them. So we can search by keyword. So for example, I can type in food instead of education. Now, once you search, you're going to still have your option to, I'm going to unclick group by topic, and we're just going to have our list of food sources. Note that 262 layers populate. Now, let's say, this is an overwhelming amount of layers. I want to filter this down a little bit. So if you want, you can group your results by topic or by source, or you can filter by geography type. So let's say I am only interested in data that is available at the zip code level. So we're going to click zip code. And now note that our list filtered down significantly. We're down to 85 layers. So let's see, and we may look at households receiving SNAP benefits. When you click the data layer that you want to add to your map, it is going to automatically populate here. Now note that you can add as many layers as you want. They're going to stack on top of each other initially, and only the top layer is going to be visible. We'll talk a bit more about that here in a minute, but first let's focus on just exploring one map. So once you've added your layer and you're ready to dive in and explore, you click this Add Layer button to remove your screen. You can click on your map to view additional information about a certain area. But I always like to start by looking at my legend. So we're going to click this Layers button in the left-hand menu, and it is going to give you information on, what all of our colors on our map mean. Now, note that a lot of these layers are available at various geographies and as various data types. So we're looking at households receiving SNAP benefits percent by zip code. We can also check this out by county or by tract. And we can also look at totals. So to change our map, it's really simple. Say I want to look at county level data now. I click county. our map is going to alter itself immediately. I want to go back to zip code. I simply click my drop down, click ZCTA, and I want to look at zip codes by totals now. So all I have to do is click my drop down again and click total. And a new map is going to populate for us. I'm going to hop back to percent though, and we're going to explore a little bit. So right now we have a map of the state of Illinois, but let's say I want to look at Springfield in particular. What I can do is go down to this search bar in the bottom right corner, type in Springfield, Illinois, and then click it, and our map is going to zoom in. Note that this search bar, you can use it to search zip codes, street addresses, and so on. It is pretty good about catching most everything you type in. Now, you also have the option to zoom in and out manually. You can zoom using your mouse or using these plus and minus buttons at the bottom right. You also have the option to click this home button just to return to your entire state of Illinois. So now that we have zoomed into an area of interest, I can click my layers button to get rid of that for a minute. And we can click on a certain area to learn more about it. So I have just clicked on our zip code 62702 in Springfield. And this pop-up is going to tell me the percent of our total households that is receiving SNAP, our margin of error in the data collection. So that is not CARES, right? That is coming from the original source, our American Community Survey from the US Census Bureau. They're always going to provide that margin of error data. And we're going to get the total number of households in this zip code receiving SNAP. So you can click to explore these maps, and you can always share them as links on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or as links just in emails. To do that, you click the share button on the bottom left. To export them as an image, you click the export button, and you can export with your map only or with map plus legend, and you have a lot of different file options for these exports. So one additional thing to note before we start making things interesting here and exploring some of our tools and some of our ways we can customize these maps. I want to note that we have several base layer options here. So you can change your base layers on your map. You also, if we go back to our layers tab, we have a few simple customization options. So you can click the label button to label your map. And you can click this manage reference layers button to add reference layers to your maps. So our automatic reference layers are going to be highways, state boundaries, county boundaries, and water. So let's say we want to add our county boundaries to the map. You click this map button in the top left, and they are now going to be visible. As you can see, we have a county boundary outlined around here. So that was all simple stuff. What if we want to add more data? So we have households receiving SNAP here, and we want to add another data layer on top of it. So we're going to click our add layer button. And let's say we want to learn about retailers that accept SNAP in your area. So our quickest way to do that, I'm just going to search SNAP in our search bar here. And so as you can see, we have households receiving SNAP benefits. Our most recent layer is selected. And we are going to explore our next page. And I was not able to find what I was looking for. And so no worries. We will look at food. We're going to look for grocery stores. So my apologies for the clunkiness here, but it's a good thing to show folks because unfortunately our search bar is not as, we don't have the power of Google search or something behind us, right? And so sometimes you might know because you've seen it before in a different map that you've made in the map room that we have certain data and it doesn't pop up with your search. No worries, you just try another. And so even my grocery stores is not retailers, SNAP. Let's try. Okay. Those layers are not being friendly today. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a grocery stores and supermarkets layer. And we're going to go to our layers button. We're going to get rid of our manage reference layers. And as you can see, this layer has been added to our map. This is going to be our rate per population of grocery stores and supermarkets. To view this over our layer up here, we're going to click this up down button and we're going to drag and drop. Note that some of our layers are available as data points, and so you can map points over your map. With this map, again, you're going to have the option to select different geography types, different data types, and to add your labels. And so this is all fine and good, but what if you want to extract these data, right? What if you need the data on, every zip code in your service area for households receiving SNAP benefits? We're going to go over to our tools and I'll show you how to extract those. So we have two tools for data extraction. One is going to be the query data tool, and the next is going to be the select data tool. The query data tool allows you to kind of ask questions of the data that you've put on your map, while the select data tools basically allows you to wrangle data that is within a certain area and pull it all out. So we're going to start with a query. So when you have multiple layers added to your map, you have to start by selecting the layer that you want to query. So we are going to look at households receiving SNAP benefits. Then we're going to select a field that we want to query. So this is basically, this field is the thing that we are asking questions about. Are we asking questions about what zip code our data is found in? Do we want to ask questions about the percent of total households receiving SNAP? Do we want to ask questions about the total number of households receiving SNAP? I am going to go with percent of total households. Now, this select field option, sometimes these can get a little overwhelming because there might be some things listed here, and especially if you are not a big data person, right? But you are in the map room looking for some data for your work. The best way to get familiar with what these fields are going to be is to click your map. So our little swirly twirly is showing up. but we're going to switch our layer and we are going to look at households receiving SNAP benefits. And so these categories here, our zip code, our household percent total, our margin of error, these are all going to be the same categories that are in your select field. And so it helps me to kind of look and compare to get a better idea of, what I'm looking at here. So now we're looking at percent of total households. We're going to select our operator. So I want to look at an area where more than 15% of total households are receiving SNAP. So I'm going to click our greater than, and I'm going to enter 15. Then I'm going to click the Run Query button. Now, as you can see on my map, all of the zip codes where more than 15% of households where more than 15% of total households are receiving SNAP, they've been highlighted here. These highlights are only going to appear for the area that you have zoomed into on your map. So if I wanted these data for the entire state of Illinois, I would need to zoom out and be viewing the entire state of Illinois. So for right now, for my area that I've zoomed into, I have these highlighted data on my map. I can also click this View Data button. When I do this, all 7 of my zip codes in which over 15% of households are receiving SNAP benefits is going to populate here. So as you can see, we're going to get the city name, we're going to get our zip code, and we're going to get our percentage of total households receiving SNAP benefits. So in this zip code, for example, we have 29.17%. And then we're going to also always have our total number. And so as we can see, our total is just 24. So this may be, an area where there are just not a lot of households. But we're also going to have these data right for those other areas. Now, if we want to extract these data, we have the option to click the Download Data button at the top here. You can also click it down here at the bottom in our left panel. When we click this Download Data, a CSV is going to pop up. I think I just have one screen share set up, and so we are not going to be able to dig into that CSV, but a nicely formatted table is going to appear. So for now, I'm going to clear the filters on my query. I'm going to X this out using that X on the top. I'm going to clear again. Clear result. There we go. And I'm going to return to my tool list. So this query data is going to allow us to ask questions. If we just want to select a large amount of data, we're going to use the Select Data tool. So I've clicked my Select Data tool. Same as last, we are going to use this drop down to select the map layer that we want to pull data from. So since last time we looked at households receiving SNAP benefits, we'll look at our grocery stores and supermarkets. And this is going to be the rate of grocery stores and supermarkets in your area. Now we have a few selection options. You can select by rectangle, by polygon, by lasso, and by radius. I will say polygon is going to allow you to get the most specific because it allows you to draw a area with many sides and close it in. And then you pull data only for that area that you drew. For our purposes right now, we will just draw a little rectangle so we can see how this works. So I drew my rectangle. Every area that my rectangle hit is going to be highlighted. And now we're going to be able to view all of the data in this highlighted area. So to do so, we're going to click View Data. And now we're going to have some information on our grocery stores available in these highlighted areas. And same as last time, we have the option to download the data by clicking this Download Data button at the bottom left or the Download Data button at the top. Now, when you make a map, you also have the option to use this measure tool, which allows you to measure path lengths, shape areas, and so on. A few more relevant tools are going to be the Draw Graphics tool, which allows you to draw points, lines, circles, and polygons, and a lot more. On your map, this is great for presentation purposes, right? If I have certain data added to my map layers and I want to highlight something by drawing a circle around it, I can select my circle color by using my slider down here and pulling this, we will get a very scary yellow here. And I'm going to click and drag to draw my circle, which is easy enough. I also have the option to erase it and start over. So we can also create arrows and freehand drawings on these. And these are, this is a result of folks in our hubs reaching out to us to say, you know, hey, we use these in presentations and we, you know, have to go in with our, you know, PowerPoint shapes and draw over these maps. Is there a way to just do this in the map? So whenever I share a map, you know, my drawing is included. And so now we have this tool. We also have the mask tool, which is really neat. So this is another one that is great for presentation purposes. To use the mask tool, what we're going to do is we are going to select a geography of interest. And so let's say we want to look at school districts. And we are going to click the school districts that we want to include on our map. So when I click, different school districts are going to appear. Now note that if you click one that you did not want to include, you can click our little trash can button on the right, and it is going to remove it for us. Now, if we want to remove a mask, we can clear all selections. Note that these masks are really useful, though, if you are wanting to highlight, you know, something just within your service area or just within your state, because you'll note that many of these layers, because they are drawn from national sources, your maps are going to bleed into, you know, your neighboring states. I zoomed out too quickly and it's having a freak out on me. There we go. And so this mask tool is a great way to just highlight one area. We're going to clear this selection though. There we go. And I'm going to go back to my layers and swap this so we can look at that nice orange again. Now, in addition to this mask tool, we have the locality finder. So if we are totally overwhelmed and we need to find, you know, a school district, a township, you know, a Senate or House district, and look at data there, and we are not exactly sure where it is, this tool is going to help us hone right in on it. So we're going to do a township range or section here. To find our township, we are first going to select our state. We don't know our prime meridian, but I selected one anyways. And we're going to select the township we are looking for. And then we're going to find it. And as you can see, our map zoomed us right in. So this one is pretty simple. Our next tool is also really simple, but it has pretty complicated use cases sometimes. So this is our swipe layer tool. You have the option when using the swipe layer tool to swipe vertically or horizontally. And what is going to happen when you swipe your layer is you're going to view one map layer on one side of your screen and another map layer on the other. This map layer over here is not participating or is not cooperating, goodness gracious. And so what I'll do really quickly, so we can get a better idea of how we use this, we're going to get rid of our grocery stores and supermarket layer. We're going to go back to food really quickly, and we are going to check out households with children receiving SNAP, and we're going to add that to our map. So as you can see, by clicking layers, we're going to remove that. We now have a map for households with children receiving SNAP and a map for just households receiving SNAP. We're going to return to our tools, return to our swipe layer. And when we swipe back and forth, you'll see that these data change slightly. So on our top, we have just households receiving SNAP, whereas on the bottom, we have households with children receiving SNAP. And so, as you can see, these data are slightly different. And so this is a means of quickly creating comparisons and contrasting different data layers. I especially like to use this tool when comparing old data versus new data, right? And so you can see how indicators within your community have changed over time. But for right now, we're going to remove our swipe layer and focus on our last tool here, which is walk scores. And it is a very simple little wonderful tool. You simply click walk scores, and then you click a location on your map to see its walkability. And so our area that we just clicked here is totally car dependent. And this will always tell you, somewhat walkable, very walkable, mostly car dependent. And so if you're ever creating a walk score for your area, something important to note is that this tool is going to give you the walk score for the exact point that you selected. So we recommend selecting multiple points so we can get a better idea of our types of data that are available and our types of uses that we can get out of them. And so a few things that are going to be particularly relevant to you guys. So we have area deprivation index information that's from our neighborhood atlas. These are really cool data layers that kind of that focus on socioeconomic status disadvantage and allow you to kind of quickly gauge areas in need. We also have a large amount of data on the built environment. And so these are going to be access to businesses, facilities, infrastructure, such as broadband, computers, And so when I say computers, I mean, household computer access. We have data on civic engagement, though it is a little limited. We have a large amount of crime data on arrest, incarceration rates, law enforcement, property crime, and so on. A very large amount of demographic data. And so here in the map room, you're going to be able to explore demographic data by age, by gender, by language, race and ethnicity, so on and so forth. We have a significant amount of financial data where available and data on households and housing. So we have a lot of data on household composition and size, householder demographics and housing costs in your area, and housing availability in units. We also have our nice childhood opportunity index, which is a really resourceful tool from our diversity data kids source. We also have information on urban and rural areas, on transportation. Most significantly, perhaps, vehicle access. We have a wide range of economic data, of educational data on things like education attainment, which we looked at the beginning. A significant amount of environmental data. So this doesn't just have to do with things like agriculture, but also climate and weather, resources for dealing with environment, environmental health, so on and so forth. And then a wide range of health data with specific focuses on children and families, on clinical care, death data, and health behaviors such as junk food consumption, smoking and drinking habits from things like the American Community Survey. And so I would like to stop us here now that I have gone through these data and ask you all if you see any ways in which you would use this tool. So for example, can you think of something that perhaps you would like to find using the map room, and maybe you would like us to walk through it together and build a map looking for data that you're interested in?
Oh, Sandy says for her HUD work plan. So can you give us a few more details? Like what would you like to see for that work plan?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm at a conference in Bloomington, so I'm sitting outside, so you might hear some traffic. Our HUD work plan consists of our demographics, like our population of our 9 counties.
Mm-hmm.
It also asks for race and ethnicity
Mm-hmm.
data. It asks for disability data. So I was trying to figure out, I was interested, when she talked about it, dumped it into an Excel spreadsheet, what that might look like, because I was hoping to be able to, on my HUD work plan, basically what I have is an Excel spreadsheet, and I've got, counties on the left-hand column, and then across the top, I've got my, my population, and my other demographics. So I was interested, how it laid it out, or, if you could change the layout. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can you, what agency are you with, or what area do you service, Sandy? I'm sorry.
I'm with the Amberall River Basin Agency, so we cover the 9 counties. You should be able to pick it up by agency.
Okay.
All right. So first, I'm going to stop my share and reshare. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And so now we can start by looking for some of that demographic data. We're going to go back and we're going to browse by topic. Was there a certain geography level at which you needed these data? Do you need them just by county or by zip code?
No, county would be great.
Okay, so we are going to click on our civic social dropdown again, and we're going to go down to demographics, and we're going to select the data that you need. And so I remember you mentioned data on disability. So did you just need, total disabled population, or did you need, information on disability separated out by age or by gender?
No, just total disability.
All right.
All
So,
of them are by total population. None of them have subgroups.
okay, so disability. And then what was our next set of data that we needed here?
Well, we need total population, we need disability, we need race, ethnicity.
All right, so.
I tried to pull up my work plan, Kathy, and I couldn't get a hold of it. So I don't know if you have a copy from when you signed it. I can't access I'm having trouble to access our server. But those are things, I remember anyway. So if you just kind of show me an example, I can play around with it later.
Absolutely. So we'll start right now with race and ethnicity. And so we are going to select our Hispanic population here. And we have, and we'll do ethnicity right now. So ethnicity is broken out into Hispanic or non-Hispanic. And then from there, it goes into race. So for our purposes here, so we don't get so too overwhelming, we will do total non-Hispanic population if we've got it. Well, we will do we'll do non-Hispanic population white for right now, and we'll add non-Hispanic population Black, Native Hawaiian, 2 or more races, and go from there. So I know there were a couple more things we mentioned, but for right now, let's stick with these data layers because it's quite a lot. Now that we've added them to the map, we're going to go over to our layers and make sure that we have them at the correct geography level. And were we interested in percentages of population, or do we need total numbers?
Total numbers, please.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to change each of these map layers to total numbers. And because we are using this for a report and not to create, a nice, pretty visualization, we're not going to worry too much about the order of our map layers. We are going to focus on extracting them. And so let's first get to our county of interests here. So could you name one of the counties for me that is in your area?
Coles.
Okay, can you spell that, please?
Coles.
All right. All right, so we're going to go into Coles County here. Our map may take just a second to wake up. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom us out and view some of these surrounding counties. And now we are going to go over to our tools. Now, how this is going to work is we are going to have to individually extract the data for each layer. We're going to go to the Select Data tool. We're going to select the layer from which we want to extract data. So let's say first we want to get our data for disabled population, total by county. And then we're going to select, and let's select this group of counties here. Again, you could use that polygon tool to much more specifically get your 9 counties you need. But for now, we've got this group right here highlighted. Now we can view these data on our total disabled population for each county. And then we're going to click our download data button to download this as a CSV. Now, in terms of customization options, whoops, sorry, gross screen for a sec. Your table is going to be pretty short and sweet and simple depending on the amount of data you download. It popped me into numbers right now, but I'm always going to have the option, because I'm on a Mac, but to export into Excel. Once you export these data downloads into Excel, let's see if it'll automatically open for me. No. Once you export them into Excel, these blocks are going to be, copy pastable into any other existing document that you have. And so you can customize them, as much as you like. And so then once we have done that for one layer, all we're going to do is X out of our tab here, clear our result, and grab our data from our next layer.
And yours is exporting into CSV because you're working on a Mac. Is that right now?
It is going to export into CSV for everyone.
Okay. But it would pull up easier for her if she's working in a Microsoft product to then see Excel's. Yours is because it's in a Mac. Okay.
Yes.
And is there a way to pull it all at once, or you have to do it layer by layer?
You do have to go layer by layer, and this is because you have the option, right, to pull a very large amount of data. And so if you pulled multiple at once, that table would be a little wild.
Yeah, but otherwise she'll pull them individually and then have to combine them.
She will have to pull them individually and combine them. Because, as we kind of mentioned at the beginning, our place for looking at a lot of data and combining them is going to be the community needs assessment.
Yeah.
And a lot of those data are going to be available in that tool, but for anything that cannot be found there, the data can be pulled in this map room.
And then you just have to do like the legwork to combine it to tell the story you need it to. Okay. Correct. I got you.
That is right. So, did anybody else have any questions or anything that you wanted us to look at? Okay.
We are also doing our next presentation at the conference. Jordan will be there. And I'm going to recommend that we have probably a little bit more time on the map room during that than what we do inside of the other ones. And we'll tie that back to the needs assessment like we were just starting to discuss on, like if you are looking specifically for all the population information, it would be easier to find in the needs assessment, but if you're looking for data that's not on the needs assessment, how we can apply it to the map room. And that will be part of that presentation because that brings up, I think, some important questions. I would also encourage everybody to, I know we used Sandy's example to kind of start exploring what that would look like. But I would encourage everybody to find one example and start digging through it and seeing how it works for you. And if you run into an obstacle for some reason and you're kind of stuck, reach out to myself and we will get you in contact with the appropriate support or can help you through that process as well. And if you feel like when you start going through it, Sandy, when you get back and you're like, I need something different, let's talk about it and see what we can do to continue to customize this tool as we move forward. Because again, this is just the first iteration of what it can be. And when we have the amount of data that's available in this one tool, it's going to take a while and really depend on the network's feedback to make it exactly what we need it to be. So we encourage you to reach out and to play with all of those things. You're not going to break it. So never be afraid of those things. And if you get stuck, close out, try again. Which is like my most common thing. And I've been playing in it with limited knowledge on how you would use it, but I've been adding all kinds of things to get it to try to slow down or break. And had multiple layers topped on multiple layers, and it hasn't broke yet. So if I can't break it, I don't think that you guys can. And I break most IT tools pretty easily. But we do thank you guys for coming today. And again, play with it, reach out. And if you have more folks inside of your agency that could use access to it, there's a form that's going to be coming out, and a recording of this webinar will be coming out in the next like 3 days, probably by Monday. And in that form, just submit anyone who would need that login so they can gain access to it for any of their reporting at all. And then you'll also have a link to this webinar that will start to take you through the beginning stages of creating a map room and application, those types of things. It looks like we have one chat. Oh yeah, Sandy, no problem at all. Thank you for joining during your meeting in Bloomington today. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Haley here at IACAA, and we will point you in the right direction and get everything worked out. We definitely want it to be a tool that is used regularly and is to your benefit. So we encourage all of your feedback as well. But I think that kind of wraps us up today, right, Jordan?
That is it. Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you all. Have a great day. And it's almost the weekend, so I hope you guys are safe and enjoy your time off this weekend. So have a good one.
Bye, everyone.